You've chosen to spend 2 hours exploring Catwoman lore to sleep to, and you've made the perfect choice for drifting into peaceful rest tonight. As you settle in and let the day fade away, we're going to journey through the complex and fascinating life of Selina Kyle, the enigmatic thief who prowls Gotham's rooftops with feline grace. This is the complete story of a woman who walks the line between hero and villain, told gently to guide you toward sleep. Selina Kyle's story begins not with a dramatic origin, but with a simple truth about survival in Gotham City. She learned early that the world wouldn't give her anything, so she would have to take what she needed. This philosophy shaped everything she would become, creating a woman who trusted only herself and her considerable skills. The streets of Gotham taught her that independence was the only reliable currency in a city where corruption ran deeper than the sewers. Her first notable appearance in Batman's world came during what should have been a routine patrol for the Dark Knight. The Department of Extra-Normal Operations had reported unusual activity in their secured facility, the kind of alert that typically meant another villain attempting to steal classified technology. But when Batman arrived, he found something different. A figure in sleek black, moving with impossible grace through laser grids and pressure sensors, treating the high-security facility like her personal playground. The way she moved captivated even Batman's analytical mind. Every step was calculated, yet seemed effortless. Every gesture purposeful, yet naturally fluid. She wasn't just bypassing security, she was dancing through it, making the impossible look easy. This wasn't some amateur thief or desperate criminal. This was an artist at work, someone who had elevated theft to an art form. When Batman finally confronted her, she didn't panic like most criminals would when facing the Dark Knight. Instead, she smiled, a knowing expression that suggested she had expected him, maybe even planned for his arrival. The brief exchange between them crackled with an energy that neither had anticipated. She called him handsome in a way that was both mocking and genuinely appreciative, establishing immediately that she wouldn't be intimidated by his reputation. Her escape from that facility demonstrated skills that impressed even Batman. She used smoke pellets, grappling equipment similar to his own, and an intimate knowledge of the building's architecture that suggested extensive preparation. But more than her tools, it was her confidence that set her apart. She moved like someone who knew she would escape, who had never doubted it for a moment. As she disappeared into the night, she left Batman with a playful wave and the lingering scent of expensive perfume. This first encounter established the pattern that would define their relationship for years to come. She was a criminal, technically, but her crimes were never violent. She stole from those who could afford to lose, targeted corporations and crime bosses rather than innocent citizens. She occupied a gray area that made Batman's usual black and white worldview uncomfortably complicated. The next significant chapter in Selina's story came during the Blackgate prison riot, an event that would reveal both her resourcefulness and her complex moral code. The maximum security prison had descended into chaos when multiple crime bosses staged a coordinated takeover. The Joker had claimed one section, turning it into his personal funhouse of horrors. The Penguin had established himself in another area, creating a bizarre aristocracy among the inmates. Black Mask had taken control of the industrial section, using it as a base for his brutal enforcement. Catwoman had entered this chaos not as a prisoner, but as an infiltrator with her own agenda. She needed to retrieve someone specific, and the riot provided the perfect cover for her operation. But Blackgate during a riot was a maze of violence and shifting alliances, dangerous even for someone with her skills. She needed a path through the chaos, someone who could handle the various crime bosses while she pursued her objective. When Batman arrived to contain the riot, Catwoman saw her opportunity. She approached him with a proposition wrapped in manipulation. She told him about hostages in the Arkham wing, knowing his heroic nature would compel him to investigate. It was a lie, but one calculated to serve both their purposes. She needed him to clear a path, and he needed information about the situation inside the prison. The way she played this situation showed her strategic mind at work. She didn't just lie randomly. She crafted a story that would achieve her goals while arguably serving a greater good. Batman would stop the riot, save actual prisoners from the crime boss's brutality, and restore order. She would complete her mission in the chaos. Everyone would get what they needed, even if not everyone knew the true nature of the game being played. Her navigation through Blackgate during this incident revealed her deep knowledge of Gotham's criminal underworld. She knew which areas to avoid, which guards could be bribed, which inmates would help for the right price. She moved through the prison like she belonged there, adopting different personas as needed. To some, she was a potential ally. To others, a dangerous enemy. To most, she was simply invisible, another shadow in a place full of them. The person she had come to retrieve was Bane, though her motivations for this remained deliberately mysterious. She owed someone a debt, she claimed, and delivering Bane would clear it. Whether this was true or another layer of deception was impossible to determine. With Catwoman, truth and lies blended so seamlessly that even she might not always know where one ended and the other began. Her interaction with Batman during this event showed the push and pull that would always define their relationship. She needed his help, but wouldn't ask for it directly. He knew she was manipulating him, but went along anyway because her goals, however selfish, aligned with his own need to restore order. They worked together while pretending they weren't, a dance of cooperation disguised as conflict. When Batman discovered her deception about the hostages, his anger was palpable. But Catwoman deflected it with her usual charm, pointing out that he had stopped a prison riot and saved numerous lives. Did it really matter that she had lied to get him there? This question, whether the ends justified the means, would remain a constant point of tension between them. The creation of Arkham City marked a dark chapter in both Gotham's history and Selina's story. Hugo Strange's twisted experiment in criminal containment had transformed a section of Gotham into a walled prison city where criminals were left to govern themselves. For someone like Catwoman, who thrived in the spaces between order and chaos, Arkham City was both paradise and hell. She had entered the city voluntarily, seeing opportunity where others saw only danger. The chaos of Arkham City meant valuable items were poorly guarded, powerful people were vulnerable, and the usual rules didn't apply. She could operate openly without worrying about police interference, but the city's lawlessness also meant constant danger from every direction. Her attempted theft from Two-Face's vault showed both her ambition and the risks of operating in Arkham City. Two-Face had accumulated significant resources since the city's creation, storing them in a vault that would have been impregnable under normal circumstances. But Arkham City wasn't normal, and Catwoman had spent weeks planning the perfect heist. The plan went wrong when Two-Face's men caught her during the escape. The former district attorney, now driven by his obsessive need for duality and justice, decided to hold a public trial. It was a kangaroo court, of course, with the verdict predetermined. Two-Face would execute her publicly, making an example that would cement his power in his section of the city. The execution scene in the old courthouse was theatrical in the way many things in Arkham City were. Two-Face had gathered a crowd of criminals to witness his justice. Catwoman was suspended over a vat of acid, her death meant to be both dramatic and symbolic. She maintained her composure throughout, trading barbs with Two-Face even as the situation grew more desperate. Batman's arrival to save her was both expected and surprising. Expected because somewhere deep down, she knew he wouldn't let her die. Surprising because she hadn't actively called for help, hadn't wanted to need him. His rescue was swift and efficient, neutralizing Two-Face's men and cutting her down before the acid could claim her. But the moment was complicated by their dynamic. She was grateful, but wouldn't show it. He was angry at her for the theft, but couldn't let her die. Their conversation after the rescue was loaded with unspoken tension. He told her to leave Arkham City, to get to safety. She refused, partly out of pride and partly because she had unfinished business. The city held things she wanted, scores she needed to settle. His frustration with her stubbornness was evident, but he also understood it. They were both too stubborn for their own good. The sniper attack that followed showed how dangerous Arkham City was, even for someone with Catwoman's skills. The shot came from nowhere, only Batman's quick reflexes saving her from a fatal headshot. The near-death experience should have convinced her to leave, but instead, it made her more determined. She didn't like being anyone's target, preferred being the hunter to the hunted. Her pursuit of the sniper led her deeper into Arkham City's twisted geography. She tracked the would-be assassin through the industrial district, using her knowledge of the city's layout and her ability to move unseen. The hunt revealed her predatory nature, the part of her that was genuinely feline. She was patient, methodical, and absolutely relentless when she had prey in her sights. The confrontation with the sniper turned out to be more complicated than a simple assassination attempt. He had been hired by someone with a grudge, someone who saw her as a threat to their operations in Arkham City. The web of alliances and enemies in the city was complex, and Catwoman had disrupted it simply by being herself, by refusing to align with any faction. Her relationship with Poison Ivy during this period was particularly interesting. The two women had a complicated friendship built on mutual respect and shared understanding of what it meant to be a powerful woman in Gotham's male-dominated criminal world. Ivy provided Catwoman with information and occasional shelter, while Catwoman brought Ivy news from the outside world and small luxuries that made imprisonment more bearable. The way Catwoman navigated between the various factions in Arkham City showed her political acumen. She didn't formally ally with anyone, but maintained useful relationships with everyone. The Joker found her amusing and mostly left her alone. Penguin saw her as a potential asset and tried unsuccessfully to hire her. Two-Face wanted revenge but had bigger problems to deal with. Her knowledge of Arkham City's hidden passages and secret routes made her invaluable to various parties. She sold information carefully, never giving anyone enough advantage to decisively win, but keeping the balance of power fluid. This wasn't just survival strategy, it was how she maintained her independence. If any one faction grew too powerful, her freedom would be restricted. The collections she made during her time in Arkham City weren't just about wealth. She gathered information, secrets, and leverage. Every item she stole told a story, revealed a weakness, or provided an advantage. Her apartment hideout became a treasury, not just of valuable objects, but of knowledge about every major player in the city. Her encounters with the various political prisoners wrongly incarcerated in Arkham City showed another side of her character. While she was primarily self-interested, she wasn't heartless. She would share information that helped innocent people survive, though she'd never admit to such altruism. If pressed, she'd claim it was just practical, that chaos was bad for business. The Riddler trophies scattered throughout Arkham City became an unexpected obsession for her. It wasn't about solving Riddler's puzzles or proving her intelligence. It was about the challenge, about proving she could take anything she wanted, even things specifically hidden from her. Each trophy she collected was a small victory against someone trying to make her feel inferior. Her relationship with Batman evolved during the Arkham City period. The extreme circumstances forced them to work together more directly than usual. She would provide him with information he needed to save lives, and he would occasionally overlook her criminal activities when they served a greater good. It was an unspoken agreement that neither would acknowledge directly. The chemistry between them became increasingly difficult to ignore. In quiet moments between crises, when they would find themselves alone on a rooftop or in an abandoned building, the tension was palpable. She would flirt outrageously, and he would respond with stoic resistance that fooled neither of them. They both knew something was there, something neither could fully embrace because of who they were. Her moral flexibility during this period was particularly evident. She would steal from criminal warlords and give some of the proceeds to political prisoners who needed medicine. She would provide Batman with information about planned massacres while simultaneously planning heists of her own. She existed in a constant state of moral ambiguity that she seemed to find comfortable, even enjoyable. The physical toll of surviving in Arkham City was significant. She accumulated injuries, scars that would normally have sent someone to a hospital. But in the city, she had to treat herself, steal medical supplies, and keep moving. Showing weakness would make her a target, so she maintained her confident facade even when hurt. Her safe houses throughout Arkham City were strategically chosen and carefully hidden. Each one served a different purpose. Some were for sleeping, defended, and comfortable. Others were merely supply caches, places to grab equipment and move on. She had observation posts that let her monitor major players' movements and bolt holes that existed solely as escape routes. The way she dealt with the various gangs showed her understanding of group psychology. She never challenged them directly, but would manipulate them into fighting each other. A whispered word here, a stolen item planted there, and suddenly 2 allied gangs were at war. She was a master of indirect conflict, achieving her goals without firing a shot. Her encounters with the League of Assassins during this period were particularly dangerous. They saw her as either a potential recruit or a liability to be eliminated. She walked a careful line with them, skilled enough to earn respect, but not so impressive that they'd insist on recruitment. The League's presence in Arkham City added another layer of danger to her already complicated existence. Batman's apparent death during Protocol 10 hit her harder than she expected. When Hugo Strange activated his plan to eliminate all of Arkham City's inmates and Batman was caught in the destruction, Catwoman faced a moment of genuine choice. She could escape with her accumulated wealth or return to help. The fact that she chose to return, to risk everything to help save him and the city, revealed feelings she normally kept hidden. Her involvement in stopping Protocol 10 went largely unrecognized by history. While Batman was credited as the hero who saved Arkham City, Catwoman had played a crucial role. She had disrupted Strange's communications, stolen key components of his weapon systems, and provided vital intelligence that made Batman's victory possible. But she preferred the shadows, preferred not being recognized. After Arkham City's destruction and the prisoners' relocation, Catwoman returned to regular Gotham operations. But the experience had changed her in subtle ways. She had seen how thin the line between order and chaos really was, how quickly civilization could collapse. It made her both more careful and more reckless, understanding that everything could end tomorrow. Her heists became more elaborate after Arkham City, as if regular theft no longer provided sufficient challenge. She would steal items of immense value only to return them later with a note suggesting improved security measures. She was playing a game whose rules only she understood, motivated by something beyond simple greed. The museum heist she planned during this period was a masterpiece of preparation and execution. She spent months studying security patterns, bribing guards for information, and mapping every sensor and camera. The target was an ancient Egyptian cat statue, valuable both monetarily and symbolically. The heist wasn't just about theft, it was about proving she was the best at what she did. The execution of the museum heist showed her at her absolute peak. She moved through laser grids that should have been impossible to navigate. She bypassed pressure sensors that could detect a feather's weight. She decoded electronic locks that were supposedly unbreakable. And she did it all while maintaining an almost playful attitude, as if it were a dance rather than a crime. Batman's arrival at the museum wasn't unexpected. She had actually counted on it, built it into her plan. She needed him there as witness to her skill, as the one person who could truly appreciate what she had accomplished. Their confrontation on the museum roof was as much performance as genuine conflict. The chase across Gotham's rooftops that followed was one of their most memorable encounters. She led him on a path she had predetermined, through routes she had practiced. She wasn't trying to escape so much as to prolong the moment, to extend this dangerous dance they did so well. When she finally allowed him to corner her, they both knew it was by choice. Their conversation on that final rooftop was loaded with subtext. He demanded she return the statue. She questioned why it mattered, why he cared about some rich collector's property. He spoke of law and order. She spoke of survival and freedom. Neither would budge from their position. but neither wanted the conversation to end either. The kiss that happened that night surprised them both. It wasn't planned or calculated like everything else in their encounters. It was a moment of genuine connection, quickly followed by her escape while he was distracted. She left the statue behind, suggesting that maybe the theft had never been about the object at all. Her apartment, when she wasn't in her various safe houses, was a study in contradictions. Expensive furniture stolen from the wealthy sat next to practical equipment for her heists. Priceless art adorned walls reinforced with armor plating. The space was both feminine and fortress-like, comfortable and tactical. Her cats were perhaps the only beings she trusted completely. She kept several, all strays she had rescued from Gotham's alleys. They came and went as they pleased through special entrances she had installed. She saw herself in them, independent creatures who chose their associations rather than being owned. The way she maintained her equipment showed professional pride. Every tool was perfectly maintained, every piece of her suit repaired immediately when damaged. She might be a thief, but she was a perfectionist about it. Sloppy work offended her more than law enforcement did. Her information network throughout Gotham was extensive and carefully cultivated. She had contacts in every level of society, from homeless individuals who saw everything to wealthy socialites who heard everything. She paid well for information and never betrayed a source, understanding that trust, even among criminals, was valuable. The charity donations she made anonymously would have surprised those who saw her only as a thief. Orphanages would receive unexpected windfalls. Animal shelters would find their bills mysteriously paid. Women's shelters would discover new security systems installed overnight. She stole from the rich, but not always just for herself. Her encounters with other female villains and heroes in Gotham showed interesting dynamics. With Poison Ivy, she had genuine friendship despite their different approaches. With Harley Quinn, she maintained cautious distance, finding the woman's chaos too unpredictable. With Batgirl, she had professional respect mixed with a hint of jealousy over Batman's attention. The times when she worked with Batman against greater threats revealed her capability as a hero, even if she refused the label. When alien invasions or reality-threatening crises emerged, she would appear at his side without being asked. She wouldn't admit to altruism, claiming she just preferred her world undestroyed, but her actions spoke louder than her denials. Her psychological profile, if anyone could actually complete one, would be fascinating. She showed signs of attachment disorder from early trauma, but also remarkable resilience. She was capable of empathy, but chose when to express it. She could form relationships, but always maintained escape routes. She was a survivor who had turned survival into an art form. The way she moved through different social circles was masterful. As Selina Kyle, she could attend high society galas, charming wealthy marks while identifying security weaknesses. As Catwoman, she could navigate Gotham's underworld, respected and feared in equal measure. The two identities were both real and performative, masks she wore as needed. Her relationship with her past was deliberately obscured. She had created so many false histories for herself that the truth was buried beneath layers of fiction. When asked about her childhood, she would give different answers to different people, all plausible, none verifiable. Her past was her secret, perhaps the only thing truly hers. The physical training she maintained was rigorous and constant. Her acrobatic skills required daily practice. Her strength, while not superhuman, was exceptional for her build. She studied multiple martial arts, focusing on styles that used opponents' strength against them. Every physical skill was a tool in her survival kit. Her knowledge of security systems was encyclopedic. She studied every new technology, every advancement in surveillance and protection. She would hire herself out occasionally as a security consultant, using false identities to test systems she might later need to breach. It was both reconnaissance and income, practical in the way she appreciated. The way she chose her targets revealed her code, even if she wouldn't admit to having one. She stole from those who had excess, who had gained wealth through exploitation or crime. She avoided targets whose loss would cause genuine hardship. It wasn't Robin Hood nobility, she would insist, just practical business sense. Her encounters with Batman became increasingly complex as their relationship evolved. They could predict each other's moves, anticipate strategies, counter preparations. Their conflicts became elaborate dances where both parties knew the steps. The challenge was maintaining the dance without either truly winning or losing. The moments of genuine vulnerability she showed with Batman were rare and precious. Sometimes, after a particularly difficult night, she would let the mask slip slightly. She would speak of the exhaustion of always being on guard, the loneliness of trusting no one completely. These moments never lasted long, quickly covered with flirtation or escape, but they revealed the person beneath the persona. Her view of Gotham City was unique. Where Batman saw a city to be protected and villains saw a city to be conquered, she saw a vast playground. Every building was a potential route, every shadow a hiding place, every locked door a challenge. The city was her territory in a way that transcended ownership. The injuries she accumulated over the years told their own story. Each scar was a lesson learned, a mistake she wouldn't repeat. She treated her body as both tool and temple, maintaining it carefully while accepting that damage was inevitable in her chosen life. The pain was just another sensation to be managed, neither feared nor welcomed. Her financial situation was deliberately opaque. She had resources hidden in dozens of accounts under various identities. She owned properties through shell companies that officially didn't exist. She was wealthy by any measure, but wealth wasn't her motivation. It was just a tool, a means to maintain her independence. The times when she chose to help civilians revealed her humanity. During disasters, natural or otherwise, she would appear to lead people to safety, then vanish before thanks could be given. She would disable bombs that threatened innocents while still completing her own heists. She wasn't a hero, she insisted, just someone who preferred her city intact. Her relationship with technology was practical rather than passionate. She used what she needed, learned what was necessary, but didn't fetishize gadgets the way some criminals did. Technology was useful, but ultimately unreliable. Skills, instincts, and flexibility were more valuable than any device. The way she handled betrayal was instructive. When allies turned against her, she didn't seek revenge immediately. She would wait, plan, and strike when the betrayer had forgotten to be cautious. Her revenge was always proportional, never excessive, designed to teach lessons rather than destroy completely. Her dreams, when she allowed herself to dream, were surprisingly simple. A place where she didn't have to look over her shoulder, a relationship without constant testing, a life where she could just be herself without performance. But these dreams were quickly dismissed as impossible, incompatible with who she had become. The masks she wore, both literal and metaphorical, were her armor against the world. Catwoman was confidence and power. Selina Kyle was charm and sophistication. But somewhere between and beneath these identities was a person even she sometimes forgot existed, someone who had been hurt and had chosen to never be vulnerable again. Her understanding of Batman was perhaps deeper than anyone else's. She saw past the cowl to the damaged man beneath, recognized the pain that drove him because she had her own. Their connection was built on this mutual recognition of trauma transformed into purpose, even if their purposes diverged. The future she imagined for herself was deliberately vague. She didn't make long-term plans beyond general survival. Every day was its own complete unit, to be survived and perhaps enjoyed. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges and opportunities. Planning too far ahead meant believing in a future that might not exist. Her impact on Gotham's criminal ecosystem was significant but subtle. She disrupted hierarchies without destroying them, stole from criminals and corporations with equal enthusiasm. She was a chaos agent who somehow created her own order, a paradox that fit perfectly in Gotham's contradictory nature. The younger criminals who tried to emulate her usually failed spectacularly. They copied her style without understanding the substance, her methods without her motivations. She occasionally saved these copycats from their own incompetence, not from kindness, but from professional pride. She didn't want incompetent thieves associated with her reputation. Her safe houses evolved over time from purely functional to surprisingly comfortable. She allowed herself small luxuries, books and music and art that served no practical purpose. These spaces became sanctuaries where she could briefly stop performing, though she was never completely off guard. The way she handled aging in a profession that demanded physical perfection was pragmatic. She adapted her methods, relied more on planning and technology, chose targets that played to evolving strengths. She refused to become desperate or sloppy, understanding that graceful evolution was key to survival. Her relationship with her own image was complex. She cultivated the Catwoman persona carefully, understanding its power. But she also resented being reduced to a symbol, to tight leather and cat puns. She was more than her costume, but the costume was what the world wanted to see. The times she considered leaving Gotham were always brief. Other cities lacked the particular energy that made her feel alive. Gotham was toxic and dangerous and wonderful and home. She belonged to the city as much as she belonged to herself, bound by chains she had forged willingly. Her encounters with supernatural and cosmic threats to Gotham tested her materialist worldview. She preferred enemies she could understand, threats that followed physical laws. But she adapted to magic and aliens and gods with her usual pragmatism. If the rules changed, she would learn the new rules. The way she maintained her skills was methodical and disciplined. Every morning brought exercises that maintained flexibility and strength. Every evening included practice with her tools and weapons. She studied new techniques constantly, understanding that stagnation meant death in her profession. Her relationship with pain was professional and unsentimental. Pain was information, telling her about damage that needed attention. She had learned to function through significant pain when necessary, but also knew when to retreat and heal. Her pain tolerance was high but not infinite, and she respected her limits. The loneliness of her chosen life was a constant companion she had learned to accept. True intimacy required vulnerability she couldn't afford. She had lovers, but not partners, allies, but not friends in the deepest sense. Only with Batman did she come close to genuine connection, and that was impossible for other reasons. Her moral code, though she denied having one, was actually quite consistent. She didn't kill unless absolutely necessary for survival. She didn't target those who couldn't afford losses. She didn't betray those who had shown her genuine kindness. These weren't rules so much as inclinations, but they guided her choices. The way she viewed Batman's mission was telling. She understood his need to save everyone, even as she found it futile. She respected his dedication while thinking him naive. She wanted him to succeed even as she knew he couldn't. Their relationship was built on this fundamental tension between cynicism and hope. Her preparation for heists was meticulous and often took months. She would study blueprints, observe patterns, identify weaknesses. She would practice specific movements until they were perfect. The actual theft was just the culmination of extensive preparation. Success was determined long before she entered the target location. The way she handled capture, on the rare occasions it happened, was calculated. She didn't panic or rage. She immediately began planning escape, studying routines, identifying weaknesses. She had escaped from virtually every form of containment Gotham had created. Prison was just another puzzle to solve. Her relationship with violence was practical rather than philosophical. She wasn't opposed to it morally, but found it usually unnecessary. Violence was messy, drew attention, created vendetta. Clean theft and quiet escape were always preferable. But when violence was necessary, she was devastatingly efficient. The masks and costumes she had worn over the years each told a story. From simple domino masks to elaborate cat cowls, each iteration represented an evolution in her self-conception. She kept them all, a private museum of who she had been, reminders of how far she had come. Her understanding of human psychology was intuitive and extensive. She could read body language, predict reactions, manipulate emotions. This wasn't studied so much as absorbed through years of survival, depending on understanding others' intentions. She was a practical psychologist without formal training. The way she decorated her spaces revealed artistic sensibilities she rarely discussed. She had an eye for beauty, for composition and color. The items she stole were often chosen as much for aesthetic appeal as monetary value. She surrounded herself with beautiful things because beauty was one of the few pure pleasures she allowed herself. Her contingency plans had contingency plans. Every heist included multiple escape routes. Every safe house had multiple exits. Every identity had backups. She lived in constant preparation for betrayal or discovery, ready to abandon everything and start over if necessary. The physical pleasure she took in her acrobatic movements was one of her few uncomplicated joys. Flying between buildings, dancing through laser grids, the feeling of perfect control over her body in space. These moments of pure physicality were when she felt most herself, most free. Her attitude toward Gotham's rotating cast of villains ranged from amusement to annoyance. Most were too theatrical, too obsessed with Batman, too willing to sacrifice practical goals for dramatic gestures. She worked with them when necessary, but preferred independence. The way she handled money showed interesting priorities. She could live lavishly, but often chose not to. She invested in quality equipment and safe houses, but avoided ostentation that would draw attention. Money was freedom, not status. It was the ability to disappear if necessary, not the obligation to display wealth. Her knowledge of Gotham's history, architecture, and infrastructure was encyclopedic. She knew which buildings had been constructed by which companies, which had secret histories, which had hidden passages. The city was her textbook, and she had studied it for years. The rare moments when she allowed herself to imagine a different life were bittersweet. What if she had made different choices? What if she trusted more easily? What if she had accepted one of Batman's offers to reform? But these thoughts were quickly dismissed as pointless. She was who she was, shaped by choices that couldn't be undone. Her encounters with time travelers and alternate dimension versions of herself were philosophically challenging. Seeing paths not taken, choices not made, outcomes that might have been. But she ultimately found them irrelevant. She was this version of herself in this timeline, and that was what mattered. The way she maintained her equipment showed professional pride. Every tool was cleaned and calibrated after each use. Her suit was repaired immediately when damaged. Her weapons were maintained at peak efficiency. She might be a criminal, but she was a professional criminal. Her attitude toward Batman's other allies was complex and varied. Robin was a child playing dangerous games. Batgirl was competent but idealistic. Nightwing was attractive but too emotionally available. Oracle was brilliant but bound by conventional morality. She respected their skills while finding their dedication to Batman's mission slightly puzzling. The times when she genuinely helped Batman without expectation of reward were rare but significant. When the stakes were high enough, when innocent lives hung in the balance, she would appear without being asked. She would provide crucial information or assistance, then disappear before thanks could be given. Her understanding of her own motivations was deliberately limited. Deep introspection might reveal truths she wasn't ready to face. She lived in the moment, reacted to circumstances, trusted her instincts. Analyzing why she did what she did seemed less important than continuing to do it successfully. The way she handled romantic encounters beyond Batman was telling. She could play the role of lover convincingly, but always maintained emotional distance. Physical intimacy was possible, even enjoyable, but emotional vulnerability was off limits. Partners found her exciting, but ultimately unknowable. Her preparation for eventual retirement, though she'd never admit to planning it, was thorough. Resources hidden worldwide, identities that could be activated, places where Catwoman had never existed. She didn't plan to retire, but she planned for the possibility, because planning for all possibilities was how she survived. The injuries that had accumulated over the years were starting to affect her, though she hid it well. Old wounds ached in cold weather. Joints that had been hyperextended too many times protested. She adapted, compensated, but knew that physical prowess wouldn't last forever. Her legacy, if she thought about such things, was complicated. She had inspired copycats who missed the point of her existence. She had stolen treasures and returned some of them. She had helped save the city while robbing it. She would be remembered, but no one would quite agree on what she had been. The relationship with Batman remained the central mystery of her life. They could have been perfect together if either could change who they fundamentally were. But neither could, and perhaps that impossibility was what made their connection so powerful. They were eternal opposites, forever attracted, forever apart. As the years passed, Selina Kyle remained what she had always been, independent, unpredictable, and ultimately unknowable. She adapted to new threats, evolved with changing times, but her core nature remained constant. She was the cat who walked alone, the thief who stole hearts as easily as diamonds. The future stretched before her, uncertain as always. Would she finally be caught? Would she finally reform? Would she and Batman finally resolve their eternal tension? These questions had no answers because she wouldn't allow them to have answers. Definition meant limitation, and she refused to be limited. In quiet moments, usually at dawn after a successful heist, she would stand on a rooftop and survey Gotham City. This concrete jungle was her kingdom, though she claimed no throne. Every building was a possibility, every shadow a refuge, every locked door an invitation. The city would wake soon, and its citizens would go about their legal lives, never knowing that she had danced through their world while they slept. Her story was far from over. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to prove that she was the best at what she did. There would be new security systems to breach, new treasures to acquire, new encounters with Batman that would end in neither victory nor defeat, but continued tension. The legend of Catwoman would continue to grow, becoming something larger than the woman herself. But Selina Kyle didn't care about legends. She cared about the next score, the next challenge, the next rooftop chase with a certain caped crusader. She cared about maintaining her independence in a world that constantly tried to define and confine her. Some would call her a villain, others an antihero. Still others, a complicated woman making the best of difficult circumstances. She wouldn't correct any of them because all were partially right and all were partially wrong. She was Catwoman, and that was definition enough. As you drift toward sleep, let the image of her fade gradually, a silhouette against the Gotham skyline, elegant and dangerous, free and alone. She leaps into the darkness, confident that she will land safely because she always has. The city holds its breath as she passes, this creature of the night who belongs to no one but herself. Her story continues in the shadows of Gotham, in the space between law and crime, between love and independence. She is eternal in her way, as much a part of the city as its Gothic architecture and constant reign. Heroes and villains will rise and fall, but Catwoman endures, unchanged and ever-changing. The museum will discover items missing in the morning. The wealthy will find their safes empty. The police will gather evidence that leads nowhere. And somewhere in Gotham, Selina Kyle will count her takings with satisfaction, already planning the next heist, the next adventure, the next dance across the rooftops. Her relationship with wealth itself had evolved over the years into something philosophical. She didn't hoard treasures in some vault like a dragon. Instead, she kept what pleased her aesthetically and liquidated the rest, converting physical objects into liquid freedom. Every stolen painting sold, every jewel fenced, became another month, another year of independence from the system that would otherwise control her. The morning routines she maintained were sacred in their consistency. She would wake naturally, no alarms, her body trained to consciousness at optimal times. Coffee, always the same expensive blend stolen from an importer who underpaid his workers. Stretching exercises that had become meditation, each movement reminding her body of its capabilities and limitations. Her information network required constant maintenance. She would check dead drops, encrypted messages, coded personal ads in newspapers that still printed such things. Information was currency more valuable than money, and she traded in it carefully. A corrupt cop's gambling debts here, a politician's affair there, all carefully cataloged for potential future use. The way she moved through Gotham's social strata was an art form in itself. At a charity gala, she could be Selina Kyle, mysterious socialite with unclear sources of wealth. In Crime Alley, she could be just another shadow, invisible and unremarkable. In the East End, she was a whispered legend, someone who might help if the cause was right and the danger sufficient. Her safe houses each served different psychological needs. One was pure function, stripped down to essentials, a place to hide when everything went wrong. Another was comfort, filled with books and music, a place to remember she was human. A third was tactical, positioned perfectly for surveillance, a place to plan and prepare. The physical maintenance of her abilities required increasing effort as years passed. Where once flexibility came naturally, now it required dedicated stretching. Where once she could leap without warm-up, now she needed preparation. She adapted with grace, refusing to become one of those aging criminals who couldn't accept their diminished capabilities. Her encounters with younger thieves trying to make names for themselves were exercises in patience. They would challenge her, thinking her reputation exaggerated or her skills diminished. She would embarrass them just enough to teach humility without destroying confidence. The smart ones learned and survived. The stupid ones kept trying until they didn't. The technological arms race between security companies and thieves like herself was constant and exhausting. Every new system claimed to be unbreakable, and she took professional pride in proving them wrong. But each generation of technology required new skills, new approaches. She stayed current through necessity, though she sometimes missed the simplicity of purely mechanical locks. Her relationship with pain had become more complex over time. She distinguished between good pain that meant growth and bad pain that meant damage. She knew which injuries would heal with time and which required intervention. Her pain tolerance remained high, but she had learned that ignoring pain completely was foolish rather than tough. The way she handled law enforcement showed professional respect without submission. She knew most of Gotham's police by name, knew which ones could be bribed and which were incorruptible. She avoided hurting officers when possible, understanding they were doing their jobs just as she was doing hers. It was a game with rules both sides understood. Her attitude toward Gotham's cycles of destruction and rebuilding was pragmatic. Every disaster was a tragedy, but also an opportunity. Chaos meant reduced security, distracted law enforcement, and chances to acquire things normally beyond reach. She profited from disaster without causing it, a moral distinction that mattered to her even if others wouldn't understand. The rare occasions when she worked completely legally were interesting exercises. Using her skills for legitimate security testing helping recover stolen items for insurance companies through back channels. These glimpses of what she might have been in another life were curiosity rather than regret. Her knowledge of art and antiquities had become scholarly through necessity. She could authenticate pieces, identify forgeries, trace provenance through centuries. This expertise was practical, preventing her from stealing worthless copies, but she had also developed genuine appreciation for beauty and craftsmanship. The way she handled holidays and celebrations revealed her essential solitude. Christmas meant empty buildings to explore. New Year's meant distracted security. Valentine's Day meant jewelry stores doing increased business worth observing. She existed outside normal social rhythms, observing them for advantage rather than participating. Her contingency planning had become almost obsessive. She had caches of equipment hidden throughout Gotham and beyond. She had escape routes planned from every location she frequented. She had identities ready in dozens cities worldwide. Most would never be used, but their existence provided psychological comfort. The physical scars she had accumulated told stories she never shared. The line across her ribs from Two-Face's man with the knife. The burn mark from when Firefly had gotten too close. The surgical scar from removing a tracking device Batman had managed to plant. Each was a lesson written in flesh, reminders of mistakes not to repeat. Her understanding of Batman's psychology had deepened into something approaching empathy. She recognized his compulsion to save everyone as the same drive that made her need to be free. They were both damaged people who had transformed trauma into purpose, just aimed in different directions. The moments when she genuinely considered accepting his offers to reform were more frequent now, though she'd never admit it. The idea of working within law, of not having to constantly watch her back, held appeal. But then she would remember all the compromises that would require, all the freedom she would sacrifice, and the moment would pass. Her observation of Gotham from the rooftops had given her unique perspective on the city's life. She knew which buildings were used for affairs, which for drug deals, which for secret meetings. She was an inadvertent chronicler of the city's hidden life, witnessing secrets she never revealed unless they served her purposes. The way she chose which crimes to prevent and which to ignore revealed her moral framework. Children in danger always prompted intervention. Domestic violence would earn the perpetrator a visit they wouldn't enjoy. But gang members killing each other, corrupt businessmen destroying each other, these she observed without interference. Her relationship with her own legend was ambivalent. She enjoyed the fear and respect her reputation provided, but disliked the exaggerations and myths. Stories of her abilities had grown beyond reality, attributing to her impossible feats and supernatural powers. She was exceptional but still human, a distinction that mattered even if no one else recognized it. The preparations she made for each heist had become ritual as much as necessity. The studying of blueprints, the observation of patterns, the acquisition of specific tools, these preparations were calming, meditative. They transformed dangerous chaos into manageable challenge. Her attitude toward death had evolved from defiance to acceptance without surrender. She knew her lifestyle would likely end badly, that one day her luck or skill would fail. But this knowledge didn't paralyze her. Instead, it made each successful night more precious, each sunrise earned rather than given. The way she maintained her equipment had become almost tender. Cleaning her tools wasn't just maintenance, but a form of respect for the instruments of her survival. Her suit wasn't just costume, but armor that had saved her life repeatedly. These objects had earned care through service. Her dreams had become more vivid over the years, perhaps her mind's way of processing experiences too intense for conscious thought. She would dream of flying without equipment, of moving through walls like ghosts, of being truly free rather than constantly pursued. Waking was always slightly disappointing, returned to a reality with physics and consequences. The relationship dynamics with Batman had developed layers of meaning neither fully understood. They were adversaries who protected each other, lovers who never touched, partners who worked at cross purposes. Their interactions had developed a private language of gesture and implication that no one else could interpret. Her impact on Gotham's economy was larger than most realized. The insurance rates, the security improvements, the employment of guards and investigators all rippled from her activities. She was inadvertently a job creator, though she doubted the people employed to stop her would appreciate the irony. The way she aged gracefully in a youth-obsessed culture was deliberate and difficult. She refused to chase lost youth through surgery or denial. Instead, she evolved her methods, relied more on cunning than athletics, chose targets that valued intelligence over pure physical ability. Her charitable giving, always anonymous, had become more systematic over time. She had established patterns, organizations she trusted to use money effectively. Women's shelters, animal rescues, programs for street children. She stole from the rich and gave to the desperate, though she'd never accept the Robin Hood comparison. The times when loneliness threatened to overwhelm her were handled like any other challenge, with preparation and discipline. She had learned to recognize the signs, the dangerous urge to take unnecessary risks just to feel something. These were the times she forced herself to be most careful, understanding that emotional vulnerability led to physical danger. Her knowledge of human nature had become encyclopedic. Through observation, she could predict how people would react to pressure, what they valued more than money, where their breaking points were. This knowledge was survival tool, but also burden, making it impossible to maintain illusions about human nature. The way she selected Mark showed evolution in her criteria, where once she had simply targeted wealth, now she researched backgrounds. Those who had inherited honestly, who used wealth constructively, might be passed over for those whose fortunes came from exploitation. It wasn't quite justice, but it was closer than simple theft. Her physical training had adapted to changing capabilities. Where once she could rely on strength and speed, now she emphasized efficiency and precision. Every movement had purpose, no energy wasted. She had become more dangerous through economy of motion than she had ever been through raw athleticism. The relationship with her past had become more reconciled, if not peaceful. She no longer ran from memories but didn't dwell on them either. The past was reference material, source of lessons learned, but not definition of present or future. She was who she was now, not who she had been. Her understanding of love had evolved beyond the romantic fantasies of youth. Love was not possession or transformation. It was acceptance of another's nature while maintaining your own. Her feelings for Batman had deepened into something beyond category, neither romance nor friendship, but something uniquely theirs. The preparations for eventual disappearance were complete, but hopefully unnecessary. She had created an exit strategy that would erase Catwoman completely if needed. New identity, new location, new life waiting if current existence became untenable. It was insurance she hoped never to claim. Her observation of Gotham's criminals had given her unique insight into motivation and pathology. She understood what drove people to crime, the desperation and anger and greed that created villains. She felt superior to none of them, understanding that circumstances and choices had made them all who they were. The physical pleasure of successful theft remained pure and uncomplicated. The moment when security was breached, when the impossible became possible, when the prize was in hand. These moments were drug-like in their intensity, worth all the risk and preparation. Her attitude toward redemption was complex and personal. She didn't believe she needed redemption because she didn't believe she was truly evil. She was a thief, not a monster. She took things, not lives. If society wanted to judge her, that was society's prerogative. But she would not internalize their condemnation. The way she moved through the city at night was poetry in motion. Every leap calculated, every landing perfect, every movement flowing into the next. She was urban predator, apex creature of the concrete jungle. The city was her territory, and she moved through it with proprietorial confidence. Her safe houses had become more than just hiding places. They were museums of her life, filled with mementos and trophies. Each object told a story, reminded her of a challenge overcome or lesson learned. These spaces were external manifestations of internal life, visible only to her. The relationship with her cats had deepened into something almost mystical. They seemed to understand her in ways humans couldn't, accepting her nature without judgment or expectation. Their independence mirrored her own, their affection given freely rather than demanded. Her knowledge of mythology and symbolism related to cats had become extensive. She understood why ancient Egyptians worshipped cats, why medieval Europeans feared them, why they appeared in folklore worldwide as creatures of mystery and magic. She embodied these archetypal qualities without believing in them literally. The way she handled injuries had become routine medical practice. She could stitch wounds, set bones, recognize symptoms of internal damage. She had become her own doctor through necessity, though she maintained contacts with medical professionals who didn't ask questions for true emergencies. Her attitude toward the future remained deliberately vague. Planning too far ahead meant accepting limitations, defining endpoints. She preferred to live in extended present, dealing with immediate challenges while maintaining readiness for unexpected opportunities. The financial networks she had established were complex and robust. Money flowed through dozens of accounts in multiple countries, cleaned and redirected until its origin was untraceable. She had created a financial phantom that existed everywhere and nowhere, accessible when needed, but invisible to investigation. Her influence on fashion and culture was something she found amusing. The cat burglar aesthetic had influenced designers and filmmakers who had no idea they were copying someone real. She was cultural icon without public identity, famous for being unknown. The way she chose when to help and when to observe revealed sophisticated moral calculation. She measured potential outcomes, weighed risks and benefits, considered ramifications. Her interventions were strategic rather than impulsive, designed to maximum effect with minimum exposure. Her relationship with technology had become selectively enthusiastic. She embraced innovations that enhanced her capabilities while maintaining skepticism about digital dependence. She could exploit electronic systems, but wasn't enslaved by them, maintaining analog alternatives for critical functions. The physical changes of aging had been integrated into evolved technique. Where once she could overpower, now she redirected. Where once she could outrun, now she outthought. Every limitation had become opportunity for innovation, proving that adaptation was more important than raw capability. Her understanding of her role in Batman's life had matured into something approaching acceptance. She was his reminder that morality was complex, that law and justice weren't synonymous. She challenged him by existing, and he needed that challenge as much as she needed his pursuit. The preparations she made for each encounter with Batman had become elaborate mental and physical exercises. She would imagine their conversations, plan her escapes, prepare responses to his appeals. These preparations were foreplay for a consummation that could never occur. Her observation of societal changes from the margins gave her unique perspective. She watched wealth concentrate, saw desperation increase, observed how civilization's veneer thinned under pressure. These observations informed her choices of targets and methods, adapting to changing times while maintaining core identity. The way she handled close calls had become almost Zen-like. Where once near capture would have caused panic, now she remained calm, trusting in preparation and ability. She had escaped from so many impossible situations that impossibility had lost its meaning. Her legacy planning was more about preventing legacy than creating one. She wanted to disappear eventually, leaving only mystery behind. No autobiography, no confession, no explanation. She would be urban legend, story told but never confirmed, mystery that remained mysterious. The moments of genuine happiness in her life were rare and precious. A perfect sunset viewed from a rooftop, a cat's purr against her chest, the weight of stolen diamonds in her hand. These simple pleasures were enough, more reliable than complex emotional entanglements. Her understanding of freedom had evolved from simple independence to something more complex. True freedom wasn't just absence of constraint, but presence of choice. She had created a life where every action was chosen rather than compelled, even if those choices were limited by circumstance. The way she viewed her criminal activities had philosophical depth. She was redistributing wealth in a system designed to concentrate it. She was proving that security was illusion, that ownership was temporary. She didn't expect understanding or approval, but she had her own internal justification. As dawn approaches in our story and in your descent toward sleep, Selina Kyle stands on her favorite rooftop, surveying the city that made her and that she helps make. The sun is rising over Gotham, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that make even this dark city beautiful. She stretches, cat-like and satisfied, another successful night behind her. In her belt are prizes that will finance months of freedom. In her mind are memories of another dance with Batman, another escape that was as much gift as achievement. The game continues, and she wouldn't have it any other way. The city below is waking, its citizens beginning their legal lives, unaware of the woman who moved through their world while they slept. She is their shadow, their secret, their reminder that rules can be broken by those with sufficient skill and courage. Somewhere across the city, Batman is also watching the sunrise, thinking of her, wondering if this time could have been different. But both know it couldn't, that their nature makes their dance eternal. They are binary stars, forever circling, never touching, defining each other through opposition. She turns from the edge, moving back into shadow as the sun rises higher. There are safe houses to check, equipment to maintain, plans to make. The work of being Catwoman never ends, but neither does the freedom it provides. Her cats are waiting in one of her apartments, ready for breakfast and attention. She will feed them, play with them, find in their simple affection a peace that human relationships can't provide. They accept her as she is, ask nothing but food and shelter, give affection without condition. Later, she will sleep through the day while the city bustles with legitimate activity. Her dreams will be of rooftops and jewels, of chases and escapes, of a man in a cape who understands her better than anyone but can never quite catch her. Tonight, she will rise again with the darkness, become again the shadow that dances through Gotham's night. There will be new challenges, new treasures, new opportunities to prove that she is the best at what she does. The cycle continues, reliable as sunrise and sunset. Her story has no ending because she won't allow one. She will continue as long as strength and wit permit, adapting and evolving but never fundamentally changing. She is Catwoman, now and always, free and alone, and exactly who she chooses to be. The legend grows with each telling, each theft adding to the mythology. But the woman behind the legend remains unknowable, mysterious as the cats she emulates. She prefers it this way, prefers mystery to definition, legend to reality. As you drift into dreams, perhaps you'll dream of rooftops and freedom, of a woman who refused to be contained by society's rules or expectations. Dream of Selina Kyle, who made her own way in a hostile world and carved out freedom with her own claws. Sleep peacefully, knowing that somewhere in the eternal night of fiction, Catwoman prowls still, independent and uncompromising, a reminder that we all have the power to define ourselves, to refuse the roles others would impose, to be free if we're willing to pay freedom's price. Her story whispers to you as consciousness fades, be yourself, trust yourself, free yourself. The night is full of possibilities for those brave enough to leap into darkness, confident they will land on their feet. Rest now, carried into sleep by tales of the ultimate independent woman, the eternal cat who walks by herself, the thief who stole a piece of Batman's heart and kept it despite all attempts at recovery. Catwoman's lore surrounds you like silk and shadow, complex and comforting, dangerous and delightful. Let it carry you into dreams where you too can leap between buildings, dance through laser grids, and always, always land on your feet. Sleep well, dreaming of freedom and rooftops, of a woman who proved that independence is possible even in a world that demands conformity, that one can be both criminal and hero, both loved and alone, both caught and eternally free.